Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Winter is here, and there's a good chance your home isn't being heated efficiently. And it's likely because of air sealing and insulation problems. Inadequate attic insulation is the leading contributor to high energy bills, cold rooms, and ice dams. Great news, the energy-efficient pros at Snap Construction can fix it all. Stop the heat from leaking out and save. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com for your free infrared energy inspection. Install with Snap Construction and qualify for over $750 in rebates and incentives. State and city programs are now offering 0% financing for qualifying insulation upgrades. So call Snap Construction for your free insulation energy consultation and start saving on your energy bills. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed insulation and exterior contractor in the metro area. Visit snapconstruction.com.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low around 7. Then Tuesday we do have a winter storm watch in effect as we expect 3 to 7 inches of snow with a high near 21.
This is Angela Warner with Warner Stellian. If you've got a broken appliance or one you wish would break, don't settle for poor selection and don't pay a penny more than you should. Warner Stellian has thousands of in-stock appliances, plus save an extra 5%. Shop now at warnerstellian.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up. They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is supported by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, I don't say this enough, Wen, but we're coming from what our Native, our Ho-Chunk way, we call this Macho Hoodoos, and that means place where you take blue clay from. And we're from down southern Minnesota here too, before there were borders, and Blue Earth and Winnebago and down in that area in Minnesota. And we've had traditional land here up in the Mississippi for tens of thousands of years. So it's always my pleasure to start the show off and remind people that.
Actually, I want to just say this really quickly. Yesterday I took our godchild Renzo to the Children's Theater in Minneapolis, and we went to see a little children's show. And before the show, they announced, shut off your cell phone and all that good stuff. But they said, I want to remind everybody that you are on Dakota land, and this is Dakota land. And they did a land acknowledgement there. Yeah. And I was really surprised surprised at it. It was like, wow,
That's good.
loved it.
Yeah. And, I just ran into a Ho Chunk that goes to St. Thomas right over here. We're kind of by the St. Thomas College, Wendy and I. And they said that they say Ishinabe and Ho Chunk when they do land acknowledgement. And
Nice.
that's the first I heard of that. So
Very cool.
land back. And speaking of land back, we talk about news that you don't hear anywhere else, and we have Zoe Allen that's going to be doing the news tonight, and we're going to critique it and we're going to score it from 1 to 10, Zoe, and we'll get back to you on that. But this would be Scott, and we really appreciate you stepping in here and doing the news that you don't hear anywhere else. Welcome, Zoe.
Miigwech. Yeah, so Buju, all my relatives. This is Zoe Allen. I'm a citizen of the Sicangu Lakota of Rosebud and also a descendant of the Anishinaabe of White Earth, which is where I'm currently broadcasting from today. So the first story I have for us comes from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation News, or CBC News. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy has been able to retrieve sacred objects from a museum in Geneva, Switzerland. This occurred on February 7th, so really recent. A delegation from the Haudenosaunee External Relations Committee traveled all the way to Geneva to retrieve the sacred objects, which included a medicine mask and a turtle rattle, which were in the museum's possession for almost 200 years. The Haudenosaunee people reside in both the US and Canada, for our listeners that don't know. They also consider medicine masks to be a living beings, which are never to be photographed. And, that falls along with a lot of Indigenous nations who consider virtually everything to have a spirit. So Mohawk citizen Kenneth Deere was quoted stating that it was like the mask was sleeping for 200 years and the mask is now coming back awake. He went on to say that sacred Indigenous objects are not wall decor, unlike colonial museums often treat them. The items were first donated to the museum in 1825 by a Swiss historian and politician. It is not known how they came into his possession in the first place, and the process of repatriation took about 7 months after the items were spotted in July 2022 by a Haudenosaunee citizen, Brennan Ferguson. And 7 months is pretty incredible for a repatriation to occur. Usually they take a lot longer. Ferguson went on to say that other museums should follow suit of the Geneva Museum, as they were so swift to process the repatriation request and return the sacred pieces in a formal ceremony. They also had a tree planting ceremony to commemorate the Repatriation Act in Geneva. So also along the same theme of repatriation, this comes from NPR News. The University of Minnesota president, Joanne Gable, is recommending the return of a forestry research center near Cloquet, Minnesota, which is about 4 hours north of Minneapolis, near the North Shore, really close to Duluth, Minnesota. So this land is to be returned to the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe. The site in question is 3,400 acres, and it's located 3 miles west of Cloquet. It has been in the possession of the U of M for more than a century. The center itself has been the primary research site for the university since 1909. Originally, the land was reserved for the Fond du Lac Band in the La Pointe Treaty of 1854, and that treaty created a formal division between the Mississippi Ojibwe and the Lake Superior Ojibwe by specifying which bands would belong to each group for future negotiations with the U.S. government. However, federal laws in 1880 allowed for the U.S. government to give quote unquote unallotted lands to lumber companies for extensive logging, wherein after the site was gifted to the university, so returning this land won't necessarily be maybe as easy as the pieces in Geneva. This will require the U of M to contend with the state of Minnesota, who originally owns the land. So it might result in a much longer process. However, returning land requires a lot more than returning sacred objects. So A lot of the tribes in Minnesota have been through this. They know what to expect. But this act of repatriation was inspired by the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council letter that they released in 2020, which called out the University of Minnesota specifically to repair and improve its relationships with the surrounding tribes in Minnesota, as they have a long history of disrespecting and stealing lands. I believe they are a land grab university. And so this is just one act that's following the letter. So the repatriation of this land, however, does not come without some strings attached, as the U of M hopes to negotiate a memorandum of agreement with the tribe so that the school can continue its research efforts. And while this is definitely good news for the Fond du Lac band, I think it's kind of tricky that they might still have to share this land with the university because it is rightfully the Fond du Lac's land. And they should have uninhibited control of how the site is managed. I know a lot of other universities in the state and even the college I went to, Macalester College, have research lands that are used only for students. And I know that Macalester has lands, and I've went and visited them, and they are accessible to most people. However, a lot of people don't know about them. And so here's to hoping that the University of Minnesota's repatriation will set a precedent for other schools to follow in the state. And in other news, this comes from CTV News. Julie Black is drawing attention for a subtle change she made to the lyrics of "Oh Canada" at Sunday's NBA All-Star Game. The Juno Awarded winning R&B singer performed the national anthem before the game in Salt Lake City, Utah, and she altered one line to recognize the indigenous peoples who lived on the land before European settlers. So this had a positive reaction, and hopefully this also helps repair relationships between indigenous peoples and sports team, which have a history of being very racist and demeaning towards us. And I had one more, but maybe we'll get to it at the end because it is important. So Chimigwit and Zoe Allen presenting the news.
Right on. Great job, Zoe. Right one?
Woohoo!
Yes. We might, we'll jump maybe a little bit of her article if it's a quick one, because we got Wendy up next with our sacred animal section.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. Peony Gigi, Zoe Allen for that news update. We'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Boost your immunity and help protect your community. COVID-19 is still here, but it's not too late to get your booster. Staying up to date with vaccines can help build protection that has decreased since your last shot and provide better protection against newer variants. Boosters are an important part of protecting yourself from getting seriously ill from COVID-19. To learn more and schedule your appointment, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Hey, we got one of our super fans up there saying good job. No, great job, Zoe. Whoa, not good job, great job. But that was awesome, and I understand before we get into
the sacred animal section.
Thank you, Wendy.
Zoe has more news, so go ahead, Zoe.
Good, Wendy. Yeah, there was just one more thing I want to promote, an event coming up really soon, February 25th. The Warrior Woman Project recently announced that they're hosting an event to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the 1973 occupation of Wounded Knee, not to be confused with the 1890 massacre at Wounded Knee. So just to remind our listeners, the second Wounded Knee occurred due to a conflict that started between the Pine Ridge Oglala and tribal chairman, and it resulted in a 2.5-month armed conflict between AIM and federal law officials. So the Warrior Woman Project is a collaborative. They recently put a movie out in 2018. I've actually went and saw the movie. I don't know if Robert and Wendy, if you've been able to see it yet. It's really powerful. Really centers the work of Madonna Thunderhawk and a lot of the women behind AIM whose stories you don't get to hear about as much. So the event will take place Saturday, February 25th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Porcupine, South Dakota. Some of these activities will include community lunch, a live roundtable discussion with some of the women from Wounded Knee, and interactive oral history exhibits. So it should be really interesting. And if you can't go in person, I know that the event will be live streamed. So I will link their website at the bottom of our stream. But also for our listeners out there, you can just search warriorwomen.org and it should take you to the website and there'll be more information for you there. So.
Hey, wow, thanks a lot, Zoe. And I will be in Wounded Knee's 50th anniversary, and we're really good friends with the Warrior Woman Project, which Madonna Thunderhawk's been on many times. And also, last time I was there with Clyde Belcourt. Mm-hmm. He asked me to go with him. It was 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And Madonna, who is close to 80, I think she's 82 now, was on a horse. So I'm just like, what the heck? It's crazy. She was driving around on a horse. You don't drive, but that's
right around.
Right.
But we're city folk.
We drive around in horses. Hey, we got our sacred animal section. And then next Wendy, we're going to have Dr. Stately, Minnesota Indian or Native American Community Clinic.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to talk slow and you're up.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. My name is Hanaji Hihani. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajingo, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. But on Friday, I was talking to everyone about the Minnesota groggy bear that woke up and was trapped in a culvert.
What?
Yeah, remember the culvert on the side of the road? See, us city folk here don't know what culverts are on the side of the road where the water collects. But anyway, this bear made a den and it flooded with water, and there were a bunch of people trying to save the bear and rescue the bear, and wanting to feed the bear because they figured that the bear would be hungry, and they threw food at him: 6 Pop-Tarts, a head of lettuce, a dead sucker minnow, some fancy feast cat food, bird seed, and some Swedish fish. The bear ended up being 400 pounds. He was very healthy, and he was relocated to a state game sanctuary where he will continue to hibernate safely. So I'm glad that those people were able to, get the authorities to come and get the bear. But I've been reading so many instances where bears are hibernating now under like people's houses and decks and porches. And there's a family in Plainsville, Connecticut, who discovered a black bear hibernating under their deck. They found out about it because their dog was growling, and the family looked underneath, and there he was, a bear. And the family said he's massive but super chill. And they contacted the Connecticut Department of Energy Environmental Protection, also known as DEEP, DEEP, and they advised just to leave him alone as long as he's not bothering anybody. And they said, hibernating bears are really not a threat to any human beings. The DEEP people said that they get at least 15 to 20 calls a year about bears denning under decks and porches. And the family joked and said it's barely been an issue.
Oh, come on.
And listen, they named the bear Marty. The family has made Marty his own account on TikTok and Instagram. And you could check out the TikTok and Instagram page if you look up Marty.the.bear. So you could check him out. And they want to make his stay as comfortable as possible. And the DEEP officials say Marty could stay there between until March or April until he's finished hibernating. And then there was another instance, a woman in Pike County, Pennsylvania, found a sow, and a sow is a female black bear, and the bear was under her deck along with small cubs.
Oh.
Could you imagine? Yeah, the Pennsylvania Game Commission set up its black bear camera under her deck so that you could go on the PA for Pennsylvania, PA Black Bear Den Cam, and you could actually watch live footage of this bear.
Wow.
Yeah. The Pennsylvania Game Commission said that black bears are not true hibernators. So you'll see her stretch out from time to time and take a yawn. And sometimes she'll start to nibble on the deck above and kind of move around a little bit. And they said that we won't see any of her cubs just yet because she's protecting and nurturing them. The Game Commission says she and her cubs present no danger to humans at all, especially the females with the cubs. And she's not going to leave because if she does, of course, the cubs will perish. So she has to be really careful about that. But again, watch it live on PA for Pennsylvania, Black Bear Den Cam. And I was able to go on, and there's a little, I didn't watch it live, but I watched video of it. You could go online and just Google it, and the little videos come out, and they're already like edited of her moving around and stuff. And she's really, really cute, but she does look sleepy. These bears do look sleepy. But I have 7 fun facts about bear hibernation. We'll probably just get to 1 or 2 of these. But we've talked about bear hibernation before, and I'm sure if I went on, I could find a lot more people around. who have bears hibernating on their property. And I'm just happy about these two families that really are so excited that the bear is there and like kind of chose their place as a really safe, warm, cozy den for them to hibernate throughout their hibernation season, and that they really want to make sure that the bears are comfortable and warm, and that they're not going to bother them at all. They're just going to let them stay there till the end of the season. So I love that so much.
So the Yogi and Boo Boo are sleeping on.
Oh, I know, Yogi and Boo Boo.
Hey, Boo Boo,
so
go get some picnic baskets.
Yeah, so both the Pennsylvania Game Commission and the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection said that once the bears wake up, they're just going to wake up and leave. They're not going to cause any trouble. So just leave them there and that's it. But right before they hibernate, bears load up on food, eating up to 20,000 calories a day and gaining as much as 30 pounds a week.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to the store today and I, speaking of gaining 30 pounds a week, I went to the store today and I was very hungry while I was shopping, and that's not a good thing to do. Plus, we're going to have a snowstorm here. We're
supposed to get 22
inches by Thursday. So I got lots of good snacks and lots of good cakes and things to munch out on. So speaking of gaining 30 pounds in a week, that might happen. And I also made today homemade vegan, because I'm vegan, everybody knows that, homemade vegan creamy wild rice soup. So we can have that, Robert.
Wow. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Is it Leech Lake wild rice?
Yes, it is. It's Leech Lake.
Okay,
yes.
I'll eat it then.
Yes. So one more thing here. Baby bears are born in the winter during hibernation and are nursed in the den until they emerge in the spring.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So lots of good fun facts about bears, and glad people are protecting them and keeping them safe.
Exactly. Hey, we are Native Roots Radio, and up next we're going to have Dr. Stately. And if Dr. Stately doesn't show up, the Native American Community Clinic, I'm sure we have some more bear trivia.
Oh, I have so much.
All right, right on. Hey, and I can do my impersonations of, hey, Boo Boo, go get some picnic baskets. All right, no, I can't. All right, we'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hey, it's Tom telling you how All Energy Solar can make you see green in 2023. Fossil fuel prices will continue to rise this year, so lock in an energy rate with a new system from All Energy Solar. Solar panels from All Energy Solar last 25 to 30 years, giving you stable energy costs for decades to come. And besides solar panels, All Energy Solar can also help with solar battery storage and electric car charging stations. For 2023, many tax incentives are available, and All Energy Solar can walk you through the entire process. The Inflation Reduction Act included an extension and increase to the federal solar tax credit. Plus, many local utilities and communities in Minnesota offer solar rebates. But don't delay. Many local incentives are claimed on a first-come, first-served basis, meaning if you wait until the traditional spring construction season, those incentives will likely be gone. So make 2023 your greenest year ever, both environmentally and financially. Get a free no-obligation assessment from All Energy Solar by visiting allenergysolar.com.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, Minneapolis. This is Randy Rhodes. Listen to me. Weeknights, 10 to midnight, AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, it's Patrick. February is the month for love, but when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it really deserves? If your carpet hasn't been professionally cleaned, you are breathing unhealthy levels of nasty dirt, dander, bacteria, and germs that keep recirculating again and again. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing that nasty stuff for months. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love for you and your home with their Love Your Rug special. Get 3 rooms Zero Resified from the Twin Cities' #1 carpet cleaner starting at just $119. Plus, this month only, they are throwing in a free hallway to sweeten the deal. But hurry, this deal won't last long. And because love has no limits, Zero Res is going to take $75 off your air duct cleaning. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online at ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Zero Res.
Hi, this is Laura, and I want to tell you about my family's favorite thing. It's our wood stove. We bought it about 14 years ago from Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. And see, the wood stove has actually paid for itself because we can keep the main area that we live in toasty warm with this great moist heat. But more important than saving money, it has actually improved our lives. Having a fire simplifies life. It provides comfort. It sort of takes the chill out of winter.
I'm Peter Solak. In 1977, I started Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, and I experienced the simple joy of warming myself by a fire. I also realized that the place and the way we embrace fire has evolved in a diversity of forms and styles. So at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we have brought together the widest selection of our fireplace products and technical knowledge in the Twin Cities. Our mission is to use our knowledge to help you choose the design and function that is right for you and your home.
Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today and find the right fire for you.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low around 7. Then Tuesday, we do have a winter storm watch in effect as we expect 3 to 7 inches of snow with a high near 21. Scotch-A-Mama's offers a huge taste out of a little place. Besides their delicious barbecue, they have potato salad, spicy baked beans, twice-baked potatoes, and delicious desserts. Located at 3 West Diamond Lake Road near the intersection of Nicollet Avenue and West Diamond Lake Road in Minneapolis, ScotchAmamas.com.
Bijou, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Development Institute in Minneapolis.
Hey, we're at Macho Hodus Studios here. See how I threw that in there, Wendy?
Can you say it once more?
Macho Hodus.
That means Minnesota.
It means, what we call Minnesota or St. Paul, Minneapolis area is a place where you take blue clay from. I can't talk tonight. But that's nothing new. That's nothing new, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, and today is Dr. Stately Day, and we haven't talked to our friendly doctor from the CEO of the Native American Community Clinic, and we're really happy to see you. And Dr. Stately, Wendy and I have a couple questions for you, especially with this snowami coming here in the Midwest.
Snowmageddon. Yeah.
Oh, good one.
Snowmageddon. Yeah.
Wow. Snowmageddon number 2. This is the sequel. We had the first one a few weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm in an 80s film when you name it like that. It's like, whoa.
I'm sure it's not the first time you felt that way, actually, quite frankly.
Oh, good one. Hey, Wendy and I were talking during the break, and we were wondering, with our homeless relatives, with this big snow or with big cold coming in, do they even know? And I mean, do they know what's heading that way?
A lot of them won't know. But like organizations like NACC, we have an outreach team that goes out. We have Southside Harm Reduction Services, which is a syringe exchange service and harm reduction provider in the community. There's a number of organizations in South Minneapolis that go and sort of work with our relatives who are unsheltered and houseless. And so they'll go out and they'll try to.
Oop, he just froze. So I guess they'll go out and try to help them and ask them to come to shelter.
Somebody must be playing a video game at his house because he just froze.
Yeah, he needs more expensive internet service at his house there.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, I'm sure the police will go out too and warn them and say, listen, we're expecting a lot of snow. This is really dangerous. I mean, those little tents that I see out there, 22 inches of snow is pretty heavy.
God.
It could collapse them. It could.
Well, they're not the
really-
biggest thing either. How do you roll out of there without being like your door covered or the
Exactly.
drifting of snow?
Right. Yeah.
So it's hard to know what's going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's other things too, and we're supportive.
Maybe
Wh-
text Dr.
when the
Stately
wall
and
of,
ask him to
when
turn
the-
off and turn on
Yeah,
again.
when the wall of forgotten natives were going on,
Yes.
we were really, supportive of what was going on there, and
Mhm.
it was hard to fathom what was happening there because of there's so much survival stuff going on. Dr. Stately, are you back with us?
I'm back. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Cool.
The precursor to Snowmageddon is you lose your internet. But I think basically what there's a lot of outreach folks that go out and try to get supplies and things that they need as quickly as we can. That, of course, is not to take care of the fact that we have so many unsheltered relatives in our state. And one quarter, so 25% of all the unsheltered people in the state of Minnesota are indigenous, are Native American. We have some of the highest rates of unsheltered people in our state. And so, I think it's a good reminder to do things like, carry extra water, carry some more extra socks if you have them, any of those kinds of things that might be helpful and meaningful to like your relatives, our relatives who are unsheltered. Just extra things in your car that you can hand people if you see someone that needs a warm jacket, some mittens, some gloves, some warm socks, dry socks, some water. People oftentimes also can get dehydrated in this weather because the cold air sucks, that's why we all get all like dry and ashy in the wintertime, because it's just like the moisture gets sucked from everything. So just like ensuring that we can do things for our relatives to keep them safe. And if you have the ability to sort of host someone or take them, give them a hot cup of coffee or a hot chocolate or something like that, I think a little bit of love and compassion goes a long way.
Mhm.
Exactly. I like what you said there too, and we've talked about that too. Even for your own protection, you want to definitely have those things in your car, but also to be able to hand them out to people that may need it
Yeah.
in need.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Dr. Stately.
And we will have a lot of our relatives doing things like riding the buses, riding the trains, those kinds of things. I think doing our part also and trying to help people to understand why we have the situations we have with some of our relatives, doing things like, encouraging, people within your sphere of social influence to sort of be compassionate, understanding as well. So those are all things we can do. So. And you can also call your legislator and encourage them to pass some of the bills that are in front of them. There's the governor has a bill going in that is going to provide historic amounts of funding for affordable housing. Right. So
Right.
we want those
Well,
things to be passed.
it's interesting, Dr. Stately, that you bring that up too, because through COVID, we realized that the government's got a lot of money stashed. I mean, nothing was happening, but we were getting bailout money and money here and there, and no taxes were being collected. So if there's a will, there's a way. I truly believe, and that tells me the past years that there hasn't been a will to help our relatives out there. We were talking about the Wall of Forgotten Natives. If you look directly to your right from there, when that happened 3 years ago, you see a $1 billion stadium.
Yep.
That's used basically 20 times a year.
Yep. Yep.
8 times for football and maybe some concerts.
Yep. And the rest of the time, it's like sits empty and costs lots of money to air condition and maintain and do all those things. And like the governor we have this historic amount of money in our coffers in the state, and actually, I think the governor's proposed that they pay off the bond on the U.S. Bank Stadium 10 years early. So, that's out in theory that will save a lot of costs and interest payments. But the part of the biggest challenge that we have with some of this stuff is that like people are, I don't think legislators and decision makers, they end up getting like a lot of their very livelihood a lot of times is connected to them getting reelected, right? And so part of it is like they go with like they make poor decisions, or they make the decisions about what a handful of their constituents want within their district without taking a look at the impact on the gestalt, the whole entire spectrum of the community. And they make decisions about like the use of resources based on like what's going to satisfy the 51% of the people that are going to reelect them to their office, rather than doing the right thing or the reasonable thing or the smartest thing. Like last year, we could have, if we had been able to have a bipartisan sort of agreement on how to pass a bonding bill, which is last year is the general obligation bond, which we usually do for infrastructure. It was historic low rates of interest. It was like, interest rate was like 0%, and we could have borrowed money on such significantly lower rates of interest than we will this year. This year we'll be paying, 3 or 4 times higher than interest rates on those bonds. The challenge is that people don't always operate from their principled and their spiritually higher ordered self. They oftentimes act from their own fear, and the fear of not being liked by my neighbor or the person across the street, or the fear of not being reelected to my office because I do something unpopular, quote unquote unpopular.
Not a true definition of a leader, and that's something
No,
that's
not at
so
all.
bad for us, Dr. Stately, that it'd be great if we could stretch out the representatives to 4 years, so they aren't our representatives here in Minnesota, so they're not constantly and
Exactly.
running.
Constantly running campaigns, having to raise money, those sort of things. Also, be good if we could like pay legislators for them to vote to, right? So they don't have to pay them a fair and livable wage, right?
I missed what you just said there. What did you say that first part?
I'll pay our legislators a fair and livable wage, so they would feel more invested in the process.
Exactly. Hey, we got a minute down to go for this segment. We're here with Dr. Stately, CEO of the Native American Community Clinic, and I noticed that you had a party that we weren't invited to. Yes, Wendy. Yes, and we'll talk to you on the next segment about that. Oh, look, he's shaking he put his camera on.
He's back.
Yes, wow. And we'll give you the 3rd degree on that, because that looked like a fun party and a lot of good selfies. But we have a reason to congratulate you when you come back. So
you have time to think of a good excuse.
Well,
I'll get to work.
We do have more than a minute here now that I'm looking at the clock. So, Dr. Stately, you were celebrating an anniversary there. Can you tell our
Yeah,
audience?
well, NACC was celebrating their 20th anniversary, so we opened our doors in February of 2003. So this
Right
is
on.
our 20th anniversary.
We'll be back and we'll talk about that and find out where our table was. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Oh, go ahead, Wendy. Stay with us. Come on. Boost your immunity and help protect your community. COVID-19 is still here, but it's not too late to get your booster. Staying up to date with vaccines can help build protection that has decreased since your last shot and provide better protection against newer variants. Boosters are an important part of protecting yourself from getting seriously ill from COVID-19. To learn more and schedule your appointment, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
We are your relatives,
We are your relations,
brothers,
sisters,
sons.
daughters,
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
Homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition. Also, Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh, that was a good one. He's always got a good pitch in there. You know, it really
Takes a little
matches.
practice.
But
She's doing great.
she's doing great. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, and we are talking about the Native American Community Clinic's anniversary, and that's exciting. And I know you haven't been there the whole time, but just to celebrate that, and then I saw you had one of our great leaders there, and tell us a little bit about your celebration.
Well, we had a luncheon party, afternoon luncheon at a Wamni restaurant. We did lunch because we can't afford to have a real party like in the evening. That's lots and lots of money. But luncheon, it was really nice. It was beautiful. It was in their community room. We opened with a honor song and a prayer from a drum group that is led by a couple of my nephews and a few other folks in the community. I should remember the name. Hokara. Oh, anyway, he's gonna kill me when I can't pronounce it right, so I'm not gonna even try. And then we had a few words from like our table sponsors. We had 4 tables in that community room, each sponsored by a corporate sponsor of the clinics. We had some really great sponsors who stepped up and helped us sponsor the tables and the event, and helped us sort of like celebrate our party. And then it was also an opportunity for us to talk about the soft launch of our capital campaign for our new building. And really grateful to Blue Cross Blue Shield. And they were our main sponsor. They gave some really great remarks and applauded us for our work. So it was really nice to see that. The surprise of the day, and then we also had other sponsors, including United Healthcare and Delta Dental, who's been a longtime supporter of the clinic, and then our 4th sponsor was Children's Hospital. But the real surprise was, and you know me, I'm almost never speechless, practically never speechless, right? But the real surprise was when Representative Ilhan Omar stood up to make a couple of remarks, congratulatory remarks for our organization and our clinic. We are in her third district, and she pulls out a congressional record document that was introduced to the Congress on the day before the event, just recognizing NACC and its work that they've done, that we've done over the last 20 years, and the contribution that we make to, not just our city and our state, but also to the work that we do nationally sometimes. Just really beautiful. And I was really caught off guard. I didn't know that was happening. I was stunned. I was going to cry. I think I might have actually sort of kind of cried at that moment, but I also was really aware that people were taking pictures, and I didn't want to cry in front of anybody because I'm an ugly crier.
I was going to say, and then you had my ribbon shirt on. I saw the red one.
I did. I had your ribbon shirt.
We were twins if we were invited.
Yeah. In fact, people thought I was you. They were asking me.
Okay, David Canoyer. That's what he always says too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was a really beautiful event. It was great to spend time with people and talk about our work and talk about, and do some relationship building. And yeah, it was just a really wonderful day, beautiful day. And to be at that site.
Yeah. And where it is.
Sacred Waters, sacred spot. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And also, having Ilham there is really exciting because I see her around in the community all the time now. And I know she's a fast learner because when she was running, she was on the show a few times, her initial run, and she wasn't really on top of Native issues, but she's really, really, really made up for it.
Yeah, she has. She was the Congress has passed congressional spending bills, so what they call them earmarks, federal support for critical projects across the country. And each congressperson and senator, congressman and senator get an opportunity to sort of, set in the appropriations bill every year a set of projects that are important to them and to their district. And I think a couple of years ago, she supported the American Indian Center. They got a large appropriation from her, I think, 2022. Congressionally just directed spending bill. We were in this year in 23 for $1 million from her. So that was our opportunity to thank her publicly for that. And she's done a lot. She tries to show up, I think, on a regular basis and have, meaningful conversations with us that are in the community that are leading organizations or bringing forth important conversations about the concerns that the community has. She's pretty open to those things. And I don't have her direct cell phone, but I have the next best thing. I have the cell phone of her assistant. So I can always kind of text him and say, hey, I really need to talk to the representative about this. So it's kind of, it's good to see her. She was, it's always lovely to see her. And,
Yeah, and what a celebration and what a landmark of 20 years. You think about 20 years ago and somebody like Zoe, who's 23 years old, doesn't realize a lot of the strife and struggle it did to have a community clinic like that.
Yeah, so it's an opportunity for me to acknowledge like our beginnings. I tell everybody that like the community really does think of us as their clinic. It's not by mistake that their name is in our name, and I think that shows up in all kinds of ways. They really trust us to do what we can to try and help and alleviate struggling and barriers for healthcare and a number of other areas around social and economic well-being. These are spaces and places we try really hard to sort of move the needle because we know that they're tied directly to healthcare and healthcare outcomes. But we opened 20 years ago with the mission of sort of improving the health of the physical, spiritual, and mental well-being of our relatives in South Minneapolis. And a big part of our mission is also to improve the health equity and the health disparities of the community. And we do a lot of that work now. It's something I really ambitiously worked towards when I came on as the executive officer, was to build more stronger partnerships across the Twin Cities with the other organizations that are doing similar work with us, but also work that was critical for our partnerships and to grow the impact that we can have in the community. And then, also building stronger relationships with state and federal partners that can bring resources to our community to solve really critical situations and issues that are that have a big impact on health, like houselessness. And we're working with a couple of organizations across the Twin Cities, another Native organization, MIWC, and 2 African American organizations, to help to develop a birthing justice strategy for Hennepin County to address maternal and child health outcomes for Black and Indigenous women. And that's an example of where we operate in the policy development arena, where we try to use what we understand clinically and how we understand our culture, our community from a cultural lens, and other priorities to set an agenda to help change outcomes over the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow. Hey, Zoe, we only got like a minute left. Do you have a question or a statement? We always want to bring the young ones in, Dr. Stately.
Oh, well, I was going to mention the birth justice collaboration, actually. So I'm really glad you got to that, Dr. Stately, because as a former MIWRC employee, I was a part of some of those events and was able to watch some of the panels, and it was just really incredible to see our 2 communities be able to come together. So here's to more of that type of work. So Chimigwich for coming on today.
Thank you. I think they're important conversations to have, because both of our communities are impacted by colonial structures that pit us against each other sometimes and make us fight for limited resources. So.
Good point. Hey, Dr. Stately, thanks for being on. Wendy, thanks for being on. Zoe, thanks for the news. We'll be back tomorrow. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Now.
On This Queer Book Saved My Life, we talk with LGBTQ guests about the queer